Hello guys, what's going on? Welcome back to my videos. Telling you guys the best auto dodge slash counter tier list in Shindo Life. Now if you guys enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the couple more. Let's get right to the video, guys. Alright guys, so just for the purpose of this tier list, any iframe is going to be counted as an auto dodge. I feel like any iframe that is decent in actual combat will be counted as an auto dodge. And I'm going to be doing them by their bloodline. So if a bloodline has more than one auto dodge, I'll be rating the bloodline as a total when compared to auto dodges. To start off, we're going to be starting off with the Kuma Eternal Hand. Now the auto dodge of a Kuma Eternal Hand is when you use the Z spec is a counter, so that I'm going to be putting that in good. I feel like the auto dodge of the Kuma Eternal Hand is very good overall. It's basically eternal, but one proc instead, and it does make them blind as well. Next up to be Akuma. Akuma is going to be above Akuma Eternal Hand on good. The Akuma auto dodge is very good. It doesn't teleport you back to where you were before, and it lasts about 1 second to 1.5 seconds. It used to last even longer than that, but it was actually nerfed. It is very a good basic auto dodge. It's probably the basis of auto dodges in the game. Next up to be Golden Joke. Golden Joke's auto dodge is going to be really good. I feel like Golden Joke's auto dodge is just very good overall because the rotation ability is actually the auto dodge. If you guys don't know that, it can last for a very long time. However, the chakra drain on it can get you in trouble some periods or another, but it does last for a very long time and does do quite a bit of damage. Next up to be a Zim's counter. Zim's counter is going to be at the top of really good. A Zim's counter is one of the single best counters in the entire game, simply because the counter is just immense when it comes to combat, and people don't usually expect they're going to use the counter. However, it is very counterable, funnily enough, that it is a counter. You can just attack them from a long range, but if it procced no matter how far away you were, it would be in broken. But since it doesn't, it's going to be in really good. Next up to be Bankai's auto dodge. Bankai's auto dodge is one of the single best auto dodges in the entire game. This is simply because the auto dodge of Bankai is just ridiculous overall, and Bankai's auto dodge is just simply good. It's just, you could use abilities during it. It lasts a very long time. It's one of the longest lasting auto dodges in the game, and for that reason, it's going to be in broken. Next up, do body replacement. Body replacements are going to be at the bottom really good, simply because you can use this before you even fight someone, and it'll just consistently go as you're fighting. However, you still take damage, and they still teleport to you, which makes it not broken, but it still is very good for combat, and it's one of the most underrated substitutes in the game at the moment. Next up would be Cobra. Cobra is going to be at the top of good. The auto dodge of Cobra is the second ability. You cannot take damage while using it. It's technically an iframe, but I consider it an auto dodge. Now, the reason why it's going to be in good and not in met or bad, because it is actually a very good iframe to use, because if you can actually catch someone and stun someone while using this. Next would be Dongans. Dongans would be at the top of good. Now, the reason for this is because it does have hand signs. Otherwise, it would actually be in really good or broken. And you cannot use abilities during it. Pretty much all you can do while using the Dongan auto dodge is charge your chi. Next would be Dark Joker's counter. Dark Joker's counter is going to be at the top of broken. Dark Joker's counter is one of the single best abilities of the actual bloodline. It actually is what makes the bloodline so good besides the C-spec. The counter of Dark Joker is one of the single best in the entire game because you can actually combo after it actually procs, and it is very good just for countering as well. Next would be Dio Senko's auto dodge. It's going to be right next to Bankai and Broken, simply because it's the exact same ability, does the same exact stuff. Everything that applied to Bankai applies to Dio Senko. And next up is going to be Fog Dissolution. This is going to be at the top of Broken. It's a Subjutsu auto dodge, and it lasts for a very long time. And also stuns people, and it makes you extremely fast. I feel like Fog Dissolution was probably one of the single best abilities in the game, and that's probably why they made it CC only. Next up to be Forged Akuma's auto dodge, which is actually the C spec of Forged and the counter. Forged, I'm pretty sure, has a counter that Kamui's someone, and then the C spec. So overall, it's going to be at the top really good. The C spec is very good for just avoiding fights, getting away, and things like that. You can also use it in combat if you're like a total nerd at the game. You can use it and then go out of it in the middle of combat. Don't do that. You're going to get a lot of hate if you do that, but the counter of it is also very good. Next up would be Giovanni Shizen. Giovanni Shizen's counter is going to be at the bottom really good. The reason why it's not going to be in broken anymore is simply because it does not block break anymore. That was suggested by me. It does not block break anymore. And because of that, the block break being removed, it is still a very good auto dodge, but the stun is very hard to hit at times, which is going to make it not broken anymore. I'm going to be putting Jotaro Shizen above this. I'm going to put Kappa Cobra above Cobra simply because they're reskins. Next up to be a Zim Dual Senko. Zim Dual Senko is going to be at the bottom of broken. Now, the reason for this is because a Zim Dual Senko's ability is a weapon spec that's an auto dodge. It's one of the most used weapons now ever since the Threadblade nerf and the Parkatar nerf. Now, everyone's pretty much using this just to avoid one-shot combos. And it's also instant. It also does quite a bit of damage, and it does teleport you to them. Shiver Tato is going to be below a Zim Senko because it's basically the same thing, but less damage. Next would be Eternal. Eternal's counter is going to be at the top of good. Now, the reason for this is because Eternal's counter is very good overall, but Eternal's counter, when it comes to certain things, does not actually match the other counters or auto dodges. But it can be useful if you use it against someone using high damage abilities, like Golden Joke. If you use it right before they use Golden Joke third, you can actually straight up heal a ton of damage and actually do a ton of damage to them. Eternal's counter can actually save your life in some cases. Next up would be Joke's. Now, Joke's is going to obviously be below Golden Joke's because it doesn't do as much damage, it doesn't have as much range, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't last as long if you don't hold down the button. But it is practically the same exact thing as Golden Joke's. Next up would be Karada's. Karada's going to be in meh. Karada does have an auto dodge, by the way, guys. I don't know if you guys knew that or not. It is the second ability of Karada, and it overall is a very good ability to use, but the auto dodge itself isn't the best because the only real reason that you're going to use this as an auto dodge is just to run away. Next up would be Kenichi's second mode. Kenichi's second mode, in my personal opinion, is one of the single best auto dodges in the game. I'm going to be putting it above Dioseko and below Dark Joke. Now, Kenichi's C2 is one of the single best abilities of Kenichi, and it kind of carries the bloodline overall. But it can not help you sometimes because it is random overall which abilities you dodge and which ones you don't. Next is going to be Mist. Mist is going to be below Fog Dissolution Unbroken. Mist's fourth ability is one of the single best abilities in the game currently. It is a block break stun that is literally just Fog Dissolution, but it has a little bit more startup time, which is why it's going to be below Fog Dissolution. Mist fourth carries the Kenjutsu, and once they nerf that ability, it's going to happen eventually. Once they nerf it, Mist isn't going to be very good overall, but this ability is very good. And then Light Joke is practically just Dark Joke, so it's going to go below it. Odin Sabre's auto dodge is going to actually be at the bottom really good. It got a ton of nerfs recently. It's actually kind of bad now, but it still block breaks. It teleports to you, but the cooldown on it, and it's also on the auto dodge cooldown now. So it's just overall not a very good ability to use, but it still is very good for the counter itself, simply because it is a forged counter that summons clones. It's very good. Next up would be Pikasenko. Now, Pikasenko's two auto dodge is going to be the second ability and the weapon spec. Overall, Pikasenko's auto dodge is going to be at the top really good. It's very good for movement, and the weapon spec on it is actually very good. When it comes to the auto dodges of Pikasenko, it's probably one of the single best bloodlines for auto dodges, but it's mainly meant for running away, not for combat. Next up would be Vines. Now, Vines' auto dodge is going to be below Mist and above Dark Joke and Light Joke on Broken. Vines' auto dodge is one of the single best auto dodges in the entire game at the moment. Vines' auto dodge is absolutely insane. It lasts for like 10 seconds, and you can use abilities during it. It is ludicrous. Now, next up is going to be Rab Style Warp, and then I'm going to do Reality Style Warp immediately after because they're the same exact thing. Now, Rab Style Warp is going to be at the top of good. Now, Warp overall as an ability is very good, but it can get you killed in combat and things like that. And also, people know when you're actually using the Warp ability because you either change it to a bunny or you get a symbol above your head. So people know when you're using the ability itself, but it can be useful for combat sometimes. It is very useful for running away. And then and then normal warp is going to be below that. Next up is going to be Ryan Akuma's third ability, which is an iframe, and then the second, which is an auto dodge. Not an auto dodge, it's a counter. Ryan Akuma overall, I'm going to be putting it in good. I feel like Ryan Akuma can be very useful for the auto dodge and counter, aka the iframes, but overall, they're just not as good as the other auto dodges currently in the game. Next up would be Ryan Ren's second and first ability. Now, I'm going to be putting that at the top of really good, simply because Ryan Ren Goku is just one of the single best abilities for countering people. Like, if someone's using any ability that goes towards you, any ability at all, actually, they can literally just use the pull ability and negate any damage that would have been done to them. I'm actually going to go ahead and do Tintails. Tintails is going to be above Kenichi, simply because Tintail's weapon spec, Tintail's auto dodge, you get more abilities while you're actually in the mode, and it overall gives you more stats too, which is the only reason it's going to be above Kenichi, but they're actually the same exact auto dodge. Now, next up is going to be Reaper's iframes. So Reaper's iframes are going to be actually putting at the bottom really good, along with Scarecrow, simply because the iframes of it aren't very good because of the end lag on the ability. There's actually more end lag than the iframes themselves. However, if you guys can catch someone in this ability, you can actually just take their mode and HP, and it's also just a very good ability to use, but the iframes of it aren't the single best aspects of it. Next up would be Rengoku's absorption path. I'm going to be putting it probably in the middle of really good. I feel like this is one of the single best paths of Rengoku right now, simply because it's a mode spec and it instantly procs and actually lasts quite a while. And also recharges all your chi for some reason. If someone attacks you with any AoE ability, it will instantly recharge your chi almost to full. It is very, very good. And next up is going to be Renshiki. It's practically the exact same thing as Rengoku, but it's actually an ability spec. So I'm going to be putting it above Rengoku on really good. I feel like Renshiki's counter slash auto dodge is very good, but the stamina drain is very immense. But if you hold it down, it can actually last for 5 seconds and is very good and probably the actual best ability of Renshiki. Next up is going to be Ryze Kumas. Our Ryze Kumas I'm going to be putting above Dioseko Bankai, but below Kenichi. I feel like Ryzer's auto dodge is one of the single best auto dodges in the game, hence it being unbroken. But Ryzer's auto dodge, when it comes up to like facing against Dark Joke counter, Vine counter, Mist, 4th, Fog Dissolution, Tin 3rd, Kenichi 2nd, like it's just overall, it doesn't compare to those, but it still is very good. And the third ability is actually an iframe if you guys did not know that. Now, Ryze Kuma Blade, I'm going to be putting it above Karado on Meh. It actually is an auto dodge. I don't know if you guys knew that. The weapon spec, while you're dashing, you cannot actually take damage while using it, but it overall just isn't very good for that, which is why it's going to be a Meh. Next would be Sabre's counter. Sabre's counter is going to be at the bottom of good. Now, I feel like Sabre's counter is just not the best overall, but there is some glitches you can do with it, which are very funny and fun to use. But besides the glitches, it does not compare to any of the other auto dodges or counters, but it still is good to use, hence why it's in good. Next up would be Sand. Now, Sand is going to actually be in Meh. It is literally just body replacement as a mode spec. It's the exact same thing, but it being a mode spec actually makes it significantly worse than body replacement, simply because it does not last as long as body replacement, and also it's a mode spec, so you have to mode up to actually use it. Next would be Satori's counter. Satori's counter is if I'm going to be honest, Satori's counter is actually one of the best counters in the game. I'm going to be putting it on broken. Satori counter is probably, I think it's the only counter besides Dark and Light Joke that's actually in broken. The rest of them are auto dodges. A Satori counter is very good. It stuns for a very long time, and it's also very useful against people overall, simply because the counter of it, it's just, it's almost impossible to know when they're using it compared to the other ones. It's just overall very good. Now, next up is going to be Sengoku. Sengoku is actually going to be probably below body replacement, above Giovanni Shizen and Jotaro Shizen. Now, the reason for this is because the counter used to not be on the global cooldown, but I'm pretty sure they're going to be adding it soon. And also, the counter is just overall a really good ability to use. The meteor sometimes doesn't hit, but that was actually fixed not too long ago. So now, overall, it just hits a lot more often. And it also is just good for auto-dodging people. Next up is going to be Shindai Clones and C-Spec. Shindai Clones and C-Spec, there's not much to say. It's just broken. I'm going to be putting it probably right here. I'm going to be putting it above Ryze, below Kenichi. The clone counter is probably one of the most annoying in the entire game, and the C-Spec is even more annoying. But compared to the other ones, I don't feel like it's as broken, but it's still very broken for the auto dodge aspect. And then Reality Talk, I'm going to be putting it in bad. It just has a lot of end lag, and it's not very useful for auto dodging in general. And because it's going to actually be it for this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more. Hope to see you next one. Bye-bye.